Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Carpe Diem Living the Podcast. I am your host, Shane Gitmed, and today we have someone by the name of Ashley, who's currently located in Texas.
I am.
Got it, Texas. So Ashley, oh my gosh, so she has a very incredible story to share, and I should have had tissues ready, but I did not prepare for that. So Ashley, just share with us, your journey, and we have so much to talk about from your book, to the events that led up to that. So Take it away.
Okay, so I'll just start out kind of telling your listeners who I am, and then we can kind of reverse and backtrack a little bit.
Definitely.
If you had asked me 3 years ago, who is Ashley Wellman, I would have told you a very, very simple answer. I'm Dr. Ashley Wellman. I am a criminologist. I'm a victimologist. And my heart really was my family, of course, but also my pursuit of my career. That was my big passion, was working as a scholar. As a criminologist, it's interesting because what we do is we kind of study why crime happens and the effects of criminality and crime in our community. And for me, I had gone from being this person fascinated with the case of homicide cases. And then I had a aha moment during my PhD program where I met a mother of a victim who had been murdered. And she had come into the law enforcement office and she said, I want to know what the heck happened to my daughter. And right then, I got pushed out the door by one of the detectives to go and talk to this mom. And my path of what I thought was really going to be this scientific study of homicide became such a different story because I started working with families and helping them through the trauma, the loss, the grief of their loved one via homicide. And so it was really odd how my path kind of switched in that moment. But after that, it was kind of going, okay, I've been called to use my platform to share these stories. And so up until 2018, I was this tenured track professor, rocking and rolling professionally. Now, in my personal life, in 2014, my husband, Buddy, and I welcomed our beautiful baby girl into the world. She's now 6. Her name is Reagan. Phenomenal part of my life. But in 2016, we had actually suffered 4 back-to-back miscarriages. And anyone who's listening, who's either a partner or a woman who has miscarried her child, each one of them was such a different emotional and physical struggle for me. And so I remember kind of the first one was like this, okay, statistically, this is expected, and many women suffer from this. So I could almost rationalize it. My second miscarriage, I remember being so devastated, like this is not supposed to happen. I'm not supposed to contribute to the stats like this. And then the third one, I became so broken. And by 4, I was just angry. And I remember a conversation with my husband where he said, Ash, you're chasing this career while you're struggling over here. And I think sometimes you chase the career to kind of numb, like what's happening. What if you took some time to take care of yourself? And what if we maybe moved, like got a fresh start somewhere because you're not happy? And so we picked up and I left a tenured track position, which is crazy in my career. And we made our way over here to Texas. And then the day before I started my new job, my daughter and I actually witnessed the sudden death of my husband. He was 44, super healthy, no warning signs, but I had gone up to take a nap and my daughter was snuggling with him on the couch. I kissed him bye and went upstairs. And the next thing I knew, he had collapsed in the hallway, broken a picture off the wall. That's kind of what signified everything. And after 90 minutes of trying to resuscitate him and getting him to the emergency room and these things, he was pronounced dead at 4:30 on August 12th of 2018. And I think that's where my life felt like it really ended.
Oh my gosh. And, any loss is already difficult enough, but especially when it's it's very sudden and unexpected, and no signs or anything leading up to that. And I just, oh my gosh, like for me, my ex-husband was in the military, so I always had that fear of if something were to suddenly happen to him. So I know, when I couldn't even imagine if that happened to me, you know what I mean? Like that, especially when everything was normal and you guys were just at home, like you just moved and you're going to start this new job. Like,
it was insane. I remember standing there going, like, this is not real life. It just did not feel like real life. And so when I was in the emergency room, I remember kissing Buddy bye and saying, I don't know how, but I'm going to give your daughter the most magical life possible. Because I knew in the back of my head, all I could think of was like, I have to go home and talk to her about the fact that he's not here.
Right.
And he's not coming back. And so I kissed him bye, and I had this, this instinct of why me? Why am I the person who's left here? Because I'm a little high strung. I'm really like militaristic and all these other things. And in that moment, when I made that promise to create a magical life, it's like the months after he passed away were so dark and difficult that I kept thinking, like, how am I going to make that happen? And I think what I did is I did the exact same thing I had done with the miscarriages. I said, you know what? Work. Work.
I can relate with that. That's why when you're talking about that, I'm like, that's me looking in the mirror, because not that it's full on escapism or anything, but it's a good distraction. You're like, okay, well, all this crazy stuff is happening, so I'm going to go ahead and do what I know how to do best, which is my work.
Something
so I agree.
Something that I didn't fail at, because like a miscarriage, we don't talk about them. And so they feel very much like a personal failure, or like we didn't do the right thing for our family, or somehow our body betrayed us. And it's so many bad feelings. Well, same thing with his death. I kept thinking, like, should I have known something? And he had said he couldn't, he had felt like a pain in his side, but he was convinced he had a cold. Should I have known? Should I have made him go to the doctor? There was all of that. And then here I am going, I did not want to be a single mom. I did not sign up to do all of this. And people forget, I mean, it's a lot of people rally around you those first couple months, but they forget that grief is like a lifelong journey. And that even when we present super polished, which is what I think I did, back at work, I think it confuses people because they see you all put together, but then you're not, and you're struggling under the surface, and you're thinking, okay, but my workplace is where I want people to think I've got it all together. And so for me, I thought, okay, I'm gonna really commit back into this workspace. And I had remembered telling the families I worked with to find something new, a new hobby that would actually help you throughout the grief journey.
Like
by
investing
in a new distraction. So you're not forcing yourself back into this old life. And creative writing is what that was for me. And so that was really kind of this like healing moment for me. And here I am at work thinking, oh, I've got this together. I'm making this work. And little did I know, this job that I had actually moved my family for, I was this promise to move up the ladder, right? I had given up so much that I was going to move up pretty quick. I actually got blocked from the job search for this job we moved for. And I think in hindsight, it was a lot of, grief is tough. And I think I was told I was not the woman that they had fallen in love with. And at the time, it was the most devastating, heartbreaking comment made to me. But now I almost look back and I'm like, you're right. I was not the woman you knew before going through hell and back.
You changed.
Yeah, I had changed. And I had thought that for so long, Shane. I kept thinking like, how dare they say that? And now I'm going, wait a minute, I am a very different woman, still a great woman and still an accomplished woman, but I've changed. And I think my perceptions have changed. My perspective has changed. And so is my passion. And I think it wasn't until a couple months ago when I remember asking, like, if I'm not this scholar, if that's not my identity, then who am I? And one of my friends just kind of said, you've got to get over yourself, is really what it came down to. And he said, you've got to stop, because you let other people write the narrative of your story when you're the one living it. So start figuring out like what you want to do and what you want to be. And when you've lost everything, it's terrifying and kind of freeing to say, you're right. All of the things I had built up in my life kind of came crashing down. But then that means you have a clean slate and you kind of get to start writing this, this story or drawing this masterpiece of what you want it to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're allowed to evolve, and it's okay if, you used to be, yes, if you had that title for yourself, that scholar, the position you're trying to go for. But I think, yeah, what people don't realize is when these life altering events happen, of course, everything changes, but also even the energy you're putting out changes, So then, and here is my toddler now that I mentioned.
That's all right. That's our greatest role. Mine's right around the corner. I just opened a Sunny D for her, so you are great. It was an under the table Sunny D.
Yeah. Oh, and he wants to say hi.
Hi.
Say hi, Dylan. And yes, being a boy. Thank you. But yeah, so I feel like even whether it's a death, whether it's, a new state, all those different changes, you just don't know what the blessing in disguise is. I think that's what I've loved about hearing about people's journeys, especially yours. And we still have more to cover, of course, but I just had to mention that, every time I see a new chapter like that unfold, I call it the Phoenix chapter, because it's kind of like you're starting completely over, you're rising from the ashes. And so I like to call those types of, life changes as the Phoenix chapter. So I think that's what it was for you.
It really was, because I think for so long I had done exactly what I told families not to do. I said, I need to salvage every old piece, because I wanted my old life back. We all do. It was perfect. It was this idyllic thing. And then the miscarriages and then his death. And especially with death, but loss of friendships, breakups, divorces, you almost lose that opportunity to heal those wounds. You know what I mean? Like in the moment, because we were still going to try for another baby and, all of these different things. And so I think it was the moment that I really did step back and say, Ash, you have permission. He's not here. And he is cheering you on from the heavens, saying, get it, mama. What do you want? Like, don't be in a place that feels toxic. You don't have to be around people who don't love your spirit. Just to trust yourself to do something different. And I think sometimes we become so grounded, especially as mothers or, the breadwinner. So men who are the breadwinner, women who are the breadwinner, that we feel like we're stuck, that this is what I have to do to provide. And just giving myself the permission to say, Ash, step back and think about what you want and what's important. All of these things that I had sacrificed to get the career success. I look back and, you can't do this, but I look back sometimes and I'm going, Ash, that was so unimportant compared to what other things you could have been doing. And so it's just interesting how life kind of changes and evolves.
No, totally. And I know for me, like, I feel like even similarly with my separation, that's how I felt like when all that happened. I had a life that I was in love with. I had a life that I thought was, that's it, that's my end game. And then when I had to start completely over, I was like, oh my gosh, like, who am I? So and then as a woman, of course, you get used to what your role is, right? And your marriage and your family. So then you do get stuck in this kind of like autopilot thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so when all that got ripped away, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin. And then it was
scary.
Yeah, it's so scary. And it's almost feels like you have to rewrite your story. Like now I'm like, oh, I'm in my second half of my life and what is this? So it's hard definitely when you're not prepared for it. But I think as women, we are so damn resilient. And we will, especially when we have kids involved, oh man, unstoppable.
Yes. I remember, so I make this promise to Buddy, and I don't really think about the magnitude of that promise. You have 2 girls left, grieving and mourning and struggling. And I made a commitment to make sure that Reagan saw my grief and my pain, and that I was a safe space for her to express the same. But I also wanted her to see grit, and I wanted her to see joy. And so didn't happen every day. I didn't deliver every day, but I kept reminding myself, Ash, you really don't have, people are like, you have 2 options. You shut down or you go. And I'm like, or as a mom, you really don't have this option, right? You don't have the luxury of shutting down. And so every morning, no matter how hard it was, I got up, I got my clothes on, and I got her to school. And that was the first month. It was like, that was a big success. And then I started saying, okay, I'm going to start writing. And I started writing her into a children's book. And I said, okay, here's a way I could give her magic. And I wasn't realizing that as I'm doing this creative thing and as I'm starting to kind of branch out into a new Ashley, I'm not only rewarding my daughter and trying to create something magical for her, I started to actually create something for myself. And that was not the purpose, but because we forget about how important we are and our health is, and how, it feels selfish sometimes to care for you first, but especially in the midst of grief and change, because grief comes with separation, divorce, death, lost a job, all of that. Mm-hmm. You have to take care of yourself, because running on empty is honestly what it feels like. And it's like this hamster wheel of just running on empty. And so finding creative writing for me was one of those things that I just thought, like, I haven't written creatively since I was probably an undergraduate student and forced to write creatively. And here I am as a international scholar of homicide. And I'm like, it's all right. I'm going to step back and start writing creative, works. And it was transformative.
I love that. And, sometimes it does come in where you least expect it with these outlets. I know for me, physical activity does that for me. So like whether it's like a new type of workout or just music. So that was like what helped me during the midst of all of that. And at the same time, just learning, because I'm such a sponge.
I love to learn. Me too.
Yeah. And for the longest time, I have to touch on this since you're a criminologist. Right out of high school, I had planned on joining the FBI. Like I actually had like everything lined up, and then I ended up not doing that because my spouse was joining the military and all of this. So then I'm like, okay, never mind. And then at another point, this is where I feel like when these blocks come in, I'm like, it just wasn't meant to be, or my life wouldn't have been the way it is now, which I love right now,
Yeah.
Before I found out I was pregnant, I was actually going to do an FBI program in Washington. Like the FBI thing had come up again. And I was like, yes, finally, I'm going to go through with like all this criminology type of stuff, because I've always been so fascinated, even in high school. And then boom, I found out I was pregnant. I'm like, well, I guess I'm not going now.
I'm not doing that now.
No. So now it's like I'm vicariously like living it through like other people, because obviously I can't.
Documentaries,
Yeah. I'm like, it's fine. Maybe in another life or something.
That actually was, I remember being a young kid and be like, I'm going to be in the FBI. I had printed out like a workbook thing and, physical fitness activities. And then someone would pull weed out at a party and I'd start crying. It was great, because I was like, I cannot be around this. I was not a very popular kid.
Yeah.
But it was great. But, now it's funny because I did find a way, even though I didn't go into, federal law enforcement, I found a way to say, okay, I want to study almost the mindset and kind of teach other people about historical perspectives, theoretical perspectives. And so it is crazy how one dream kind of bleeds into another. And sometimes you don't even know how your histories cross over until you look back and you went, all of that was very intricately weaved. And I had no idea.
Yeah. My gosh. So the book, it's called My Friend Fresno.
Yes.
And okay, so you're writing this book, and I remember seeing it on social media, but tell our listeners on how it came about, where the concept came from.
Yeah, of course. So it is literally like my whole face changed. Like now that we're going to talk about Fresno and Reagan, it's really cool. So the full title is The Girl Who Dances with Skeletons, My Friend Fresno. And the book is about my daughter, Reagan, and they're in real life, her 3-foot posable skeleton. So since she was 2, Reagan has toted around Fresno, her best friend. I had gotten him for my office. I study homicide, so it made sense. And I went to go take him to the office, and Reagan was like, you can't, that is my best friend, Fresno. And so I thought, that's weird. And then I looked at Buddy and he said, you're weird. I said, yeah, that's true. All right. So he said, sure, love on Fresno. So my friend, in the midst of my grief, saw a picture of her dancing with Fresno and said, Ashley, the macabre beauty of that picture has to be what you write about. Because he said, you have this beautiful little 2-year-old blonde-haired girl dancing with this skeleton that is supposed to be horrifically terrifying. And yet she sees none of that. She takes him on international trips. She takes him to the pool. She takes him to the movie theater. Like, we've been through TSA so many times and had to explain who Fresno was and what he was over the last 4 years. And so he said, think about the story behind that and just write that. And so originally it was just this cute little story of like the things Reagan liked to do with Fresno. But then my amazing illustrator, Zach Kincaid, I don't know if you're familiar with Thomas Kincaid, the painter of light. He does all the reflection light, like where you turn the lights up and down and the lighting.
So familiar. Yeah.
He's one of the most, celebrated and accomplished American artist. And, but his nephew is Zach Kincaid. And I got partnered with him. And Reagan wants to show, you want to show everybody? Come here, come show them. This is the real Fresno and this is the real Reagan. Say, hey. Hi guys.
Hi.
Can you say, hey, Shane?
Hi, kisses.
And Dylan says hi.
Hi,
I think he sensed that we're going to have...
Hey, Reagan, can you tell them, what is My Friend Fresno about? Speak up so Shane can hear you. What's the book about?
The book is really just about Fresno and how he finds a good friend and that he learns that he's loved.
How does he learn that he's loved? What makes him feel loved?
Me and my mom, but it doesn't show her in the book. But that makes me really sad.
Oh, you want me in the next book?
I want mommy in the books because when she was working on it, there's a little picture of her and tucking me and Fresno into my bed. And I really loved that picture and I wanted it to be in the book.
Well, next, guys, there's always book 2. So here's what the book's about. It's about Reagan, and she starts the book by saying, I used to be afraid of monsters under my bed.
And then the next page says, now I welcome them.
I've learned that scary things are often just
misunderstood.
They're often just misunderstood. And so the book is about this idea that scary things are often just these misunderstood ideas. And now more than ever, I think that's a critical message, that the things that scare us, like people of a different race, religion, people who don't look or act the same, someone with a disability, so many people, their gut reaction is like, not for me, right? We are not the same, not for me. And the book has evolved from this just simple story to really being a book that can be used by families to share this story of friendship and self-acceptance and inclusion by teaching their kids that Reagan meets a skeleton who should be scary. He's not, because Reagan takes the time to kind of get to know him. And from that, they learn to dance together, right? And they start doing all these really fun things together. And at the end of the book, Fresno makes new friends. Fresno learns to love himself, and Reagan learns that sometimes our greatest friends come from the places you least expect. Make no bones about it.
That literally melts my heart so much of the whole message, and just, oh my gosh, so sweet.
It's so sweet. And what's the neat thing too is that it's a story where I've read it to different groups and they all see such different messages in the book, whatever their personal circumstances. So one of the individuals that I had read it to is a therapist with children with intellectual disabilities. And he was telling me what's so magical is Fresno is the child I serve with an intellectual disability. And Reagan, who's the one that teaches them how special they are, is either the parent or the sibling or something like that becomes this magical person in their life that teaches them how special they are. And then I read it to someone, who, let's say a biracial family, right? And they go, my child struggles because people don't accept them. But then I read this book and it's Fresno and Reagan. And then you see all the different beautiful colors in the book. There's people of all races, all religions featured in some of the group photos. And you can really find whatever message you want to talk to your kid about, it's in this book, because it's saying, yes, this is hard. Yes, this is scary. But when you get to know it, you get comfortable with it and you start dancing with it, we can find the beauty inside of it. And the people that are meant to be in our tribe are going to be in our tribe. And so I'm so excited about how much this can be used beyond just a story. I would love to be inside of elementary schools and reaching out with families and saying, like, guys, who are you? Are you Fresno? Are you Reagan? What makes you special and unique? There's just so much magic. I'm just so excited about it.
I love that, because I love that it really can be applied to any person with whatever their background is. And it really gets the children to think, like, where do I see myself? How can I apply this to that certain situation? So you have a gift. I love, oh my gosh, I just love thoughtful art pieces like this. And there's going to be a part 2, which you're going to be featured in.
Yes, and there's going to be, so books 2 and 3 are actually already in Zach's hands, which is so exciting. So book 2, I'm not sure the order that they're going to come out in, but book 2 is Fresno Finds His Heart. So in this first book, remember, he's trying to really struggle to understand that Reagan's going to be trustworthy and, you know, like love him, and he starts to love himself. But then in book 2, it's kind of a play on the Wizard of Oz. Fresno realizes he doesn't have a physical heart. And so he kind of sets off to find it. And on the way, he starts helping all of these people and kind of gets distracted. And at the very end, he's sad because he doesn't have his physical heart. And Reagan lets him know, you've had it all along. Sometimes you really have to dig deep and find it for yourself. And that if you ever forget, I'll be here to remind you of it. So it's just very, very sweet for that. Book 3, and they may come out in the opposite order, but book 3 is Fresno's First Christmas, which is about kind of merging cultures. And it's just a really cool journey. And for me, here I am, this widow, I'm still a professor. It was this thing to say, I'm going to own this. This is mine. And it's mine with a passion and a purpose, which I would encourage anyone who's kind of in that transitional moment. It doesn't have to be death, but anyone who's kind of in that transitional moment, find your thing, that new thing, because I think I could have easily published this a traditional route, you know, like just given it away and let it go. But there was something innate inside me that said, I want this. I want this to be more than the book. I created the little plush doll, the children's puzzles, a 500-piece puzzle, and I've created this whole bone boutique. And I told, you know, like my friends, I'm like, I want this to be a business opportunity for me to kind of find myself again while spreading the same kind of messages, all the things I've done in my past, right? Maybe my career, you know, like got sidetracked after his death, but no one can take away the things we accomplished, the things that we've learned, the titles that we've earned. And all of those have such a place, even where we don't really see it. So like, I'm a teacher forever. My students are my life. So maybe my students are a little younger now, you know, and I want to be working with little kids. And my advocacy for my survivors, it was always about giving them a voice. Well, what about kiddos that don't see themselves in literature? I could also give them a voice. And so don't ever count yourself out. Don't ever think, oh my gosh, this roadblock has kind of wiped me out and I am not worthy. Because that's what I struggled with, was this worth and value and definition of self, like we talked about. But my God, when you finally say enough, and I'm going to, like, I had to get over myself a little bit. And I really had to listen to people that said, stop listening to the few voices that continue, including yours, that continue to kind of halt you or stop you in your tracks. Start believing in what you really know. Like, write down the truth, because sometimes we get lost in kind of the chaos. And when you really step back, my God, like you said, especially women, but people, humans are just resilient beasts. So step out of your own way. I had to step out of my own way to kind of set a new path.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think that's why, even though like we said earlier, before we even started recording, like, even though, you know, there was a sadness to this, at the end it's happy, and at the end there is joy to be found. And that's just the beauty of life. You know, we go through roller coasters of events, but as long as we get right back up, we show up, and we don't let things completely tear us down, then it's going to be amazing. So I just love that, you know, even though everything that's happened, you now have this legacy. You know, you're creating a whole new path for you and your daughter, and I'm just so excited to tune in and watch as everything evolves. And
thank you. I'm just grateful because it's such an amazing. I'm at a place, because like we said, grief kind of pops up in different places, a song on the radio or those kinds of things. But I'm at this place where I can truly sit back and go, God, Buddy is just so proud. I just know he is so proud of me and of his little girl, and you know, just where we are, because that promise, I really didn't know if I was going to be able to fulfill it. After I said it, I was like, that was a big promise you just made. But, you know, I know he's literally up there, probably eating donuts. Those are his favorite. But, you know, saying, my God, she's doing it. And the kindness and like what Reagan's been through, the way she's such a more compassionate, beautiful human because of that raw trauma, it's actually a beautiful thing. You know, you just got to dig for the beauty, because I didn't know I was this strong. I didn't know I had these talents. And, you know, it's almost like when I lost Buddy, I gained this angel who was just like, okay, listen, you're going to kind of reset things. I'm giving you permission to let go, Ash. And, you know, when you're not listening, I wasn't listening. Maybe that job loss was purposeful. You know, like maybe it was divinely placed too. And it was something that I would have stayed in the uncomfortable, you know, because it's like, that's what I had been doing and that was my normal. And because the normal gets rocked, sometimes look for those gems because they're not easy to find all the time, but they're there. And when you look back, like I said, you go, dang, I moved to the right place. I'm surrounded by I have some incredible colleagues. I have incredible friends I did not know I had until he passed away. People crawled out of the woodwork to become heroes in my life. And so you really do have to just say, stop every day focusing on the negative, acknowledge the negative, but don't let that be the guide to your next chapter, right? Be the phoenix and just keep going like, all right, sometimes you gotta dust ashes off because they come back.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so true. No. And and I think that's like the biggest takeaway from all of this is like, there's lessons to be learned and, you know, things that will be uncovered. And I just feel like that with every life change, like you just learn more and more things about yourself. And especially with creative writing, like that's not easy. You know, that is truly not easy. You really have to tap into almost like your inner child, right? You know, when you're little and you're just told to write these little stories for a little project, and then you realize like, oh, this can actually go somewhere, you know, with all the different things that come up.
We stop dreaming as adults, I think. We stop letting ourselves dream and be whatever we want and reach for the stars. Like all these things that as parents, we drive home for our kids. We stop believing those ourselves. And so I think sometimes I really have to say, like, if I was talking to Reagan, what would I say to her? And it was like, get it, girl. I'm there to buy the first book, right? And I would believe in her like nobody else's business. And so sometimes you got to step up and model that, particularly if you're a parent, model that. If I really want her to believe in herself, if I really want her to turn the critics off in her head, then I better start getting my mess together and present a role model that's really showing her this is how that looks. This is what that looks like.
That's so true. Because, you know, kids, they're always watching you and they absorb everything. Mm-hmm. So I know, especially for me, like when I was going through the beginning stages of the new phase, I was like, I don't want him to see me, you know, full blown upset or anything. But every day he would see me just work hard, you know, be confident. And those were a lot of things I had to work on over time because when loss happens in any way, it's really hard to just remind yourself of who you are and what you're capable of. And so I had to keep turning off that, you know, that negative voice in my head that like, you know, this is your new life, you know, you just have to focus on what you know, but that's not true. So,
and for you and for anyone listening, sometimes it's okay to let our kids see us fail. It's okay to let them see us cry and just feel broken. Not the crazy moments. I've had some moments that I'm like, get away.
That's like,
Yeah. Everyone knows, everyone has them. But in honest, just raw moments where I'm devastated, I'm sad, I'm frustrated, I'm disappointed, I want her to see that because I think sometimes our parents protect us so much that might be where some of this perfectionism and this feeling of guilt and responsibility comes from because like, I didn't see that. So then my mom must not have struggled. Nuh-uh. We all struggle. And so I think sometimes saying, you know what, it's okay. And Reagan's really learned, you know, she said the other day, I got my very first proof of the book and I had been looking through it. And it was, you know, I was all proud of it. And then I got a second proof of it because I had moved some things around and the colors were just a little bit different, not bad, not good, but different. And if you're OCD, different is a disaster.
You're just like, ooh, doesn't cut it.
So I open it up. I have a literal breakdown and I'm like, burn it down, get the shipping trucks, take them back. I'm over it. I have no business being a children's book author, you know? So I'm super upset. And then she comes and she just puts her hand on me and she's like, Mom, it looks beautiful. And she's like, you did this and it's perfect because you did this. And I went, okay. So I said, give me just a second. So I went in my room and I was like, you need to stop. You need to calm down.
Let's check myself real quick.
I put her to bed And she said, Mama, don't forget, like, you did really good. And I came back downstairs and I flipped through the book and I cried a different kind of tears where I went, she's right. It's beautiful, you know, but it's that kind of, I just had the gut reaction and I was like, well, she's not getting shielded from this one, you know? And now she'll tell people, she's like, Mom was actually really upset the first time she saw her book. And I'm going, stop. They tell on us too. So get ready. Anything you do, let them see, they're going to tell on you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a journey and I want to always be the safe space and the example of saying, you know, Reagan, on good days or bad, we're human and that's okay. So it's okay to cry. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be joyful. And you just dance with it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I just can't, I'm just smiling from ear to ear because I just love this story and I just love I just have such good feelings of where this is going to go for you guys. So I just can't wait. I cannot wait. And Dylan's 3. So I'm definitely going to read him the book. And I'm curious, are you going to do an audio book version of these?
You know, I have not thought of that. That's not a bad idea at all to do an audio version of it. But I'm going to get you the ebook copy, and then the hardback books, the plush dolls, everything's going to be available on our website, and so you can actually bundle and save to anybody who's looking for those. So just so many fun things. The puzzles specifically. When a child's working on a little puzzle, the ways you can converse with them while they're slightly distracted and kind of talk about some of those heavy topics, in my head, I thought, what a good idea, right? When you can read the book and then maybe while you guys are putting a puzzle together, you can talk about some of those tough things, whether it's bullying, not fitting in, divorce, death, right? I never wanted the book to say, okay, let's remind you your dad is dead and this is how you could feel afterwards, you know? I wanted it to be no matter what her struggle was. We could talk about, don't forget, it's scary because we don't understand it. It's scary because it's new and we're going to learn it. We're going to dance with it and we're going to find out what's special about it and how it kind of impacts us, right? And so it's that same kind of thing. And so I think parents will find this charm and just love and friendship and the art that Zach does. Oh my gosh, it's so good. I remember asking Zach, like, the story's good, right? Because your art is phenomenal. And he starts laughing. He's like, yeah, I wouldn't have done it if the story wasn't good. And I said, okay.
He just brought your ideas to life. I have a special love for like graphic designers and people that can just bring.
Yes. Let me show you this because I'm going to show you a sad Fresno. This is one of my favorite. Although it's sad, it's one of my favorite pictures in the book. And then I'm going to show you a happy Fresno. But this is a sad Fresno where people are being mean to him. And he says, did they think I didn't have a heart? Poor Fresno. And then, you know, down the road, he and Reagan are having so much fun. Like here he is playing Dungeons and Dragons with Reagan.
Adorable.
Isn't that so much fun? And you know, at the very end, here we are. Let's see. At the very end, he starts having all of these amazing friends who are there for him. And it's just so fun. He's taking a picture and Reagan's holding his head up there. So there's just so many really fun, sweet moments. I think the parents will find the puns and some of the hidden imagery to be hilarious. And then the kids will really find those kind of funny hidden moments as well. So I can't wait for people to share our journey with us.
I love it so much. I just know more, as more and more parents learn about this, they're just going to fall in love with it too.
Thank you so much.
So where can our listeners find you online, connect with you and, you know, with the book?
Of course. So if you want to follow our journey with Fresno and you want to be part of our skeleton crew, you can actually hop over to our website to shop and play. That's exclusively where the goodies are. It's at www.myfriendfresno.com. So that's where you'll find the shop. You'll find some worksheets and little puzzles to do, some pictures of Fresno, Reagan, and some of our fans. And so www.myfriendfresno.com is that website. You can also follow our journey on social media. We are at myfriendfresno on every platform. And then if you want to know a little bit more about me, Ashley Wellman, the criminologist, writer, speaker, you can follow me at Dr. Ashley Wellman on Twitter or Instagram, or you could visit my website, www.ashleywellman.com.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. And I just had like an epiphany right now of the book being at Scholastic Book Fairs. I just had to mention, like, I just imagined like Dylan in school and then it's the Scholastic Book Fair and then just seeing it on the shelf. So
he comes home, he's like, look what I got, Mom.
Yeah. And I'm like, we already have the original, but it's okay.
We have this signed by the author.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Have Reagan sign it too. So
yes,
cute.
Absolutely. And then Shane, for your listeners, we're actually going to do a promo code CDL20 so that anyone who's shopping after listening to your podcast, they can hop in and enter that CDL20 and they will save 20% off their order.
Perfect. I'm going to share it with all my mom friends for sure. Because I mean, what kid doesn't love books, right? It's like our collection's growing by the day. So
and it's just a great story, that friendship, self-acceptance, overcoming adversity. So any family out there, if you need a reason to laugh, if you need a reason to cry and process, this is the book. And don't forget your little snuggle buddy, because he's embroidered and super soft, and he just makes a really great friend too.
Yeah, not just for Halloween, but just in general.
This is not a Halloween book. It's funny because the products are missing Halloween, right? They missed Halloween as far as shipment. And it's okay because I went, it's all right. Fresno is not a Halloween friend. That is the actual part of this story, is that he's forever indebted as this best friend to human beings who will accept him. So I can't wait for your family to get a copy.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I can't wait. So everyone, we're going to have all the links in the description box. And if you want to connect with Ashley, with Fresno, you have all the details. So we'll catch you all next time. And thank you all again for listening. Bye.
Thanks, guys.